Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Trans Files. So, this episode tonight is going to be pretty special because I know we've kind of talked about, like, hey, we're going to try to not really involve politics, but right now we're getting attacked right now. So, tonight's topic, we're going to talk about the overturn of Roe v. Wade and how that's pretty much been affecting everybody. So, just so that we are making things clear with Roe v. Wade, like basically that was put in place to protect women and basically allow them to have that choice to have an abortion. And right now, that has been overturned. We basically have a bunch of authoritarian people in government trying to tell us what we should do with our bodies, and it's not right. But since we are an LGBTQ network, this definitely affects us as well. And I want to make sure that we talk about this thoroughly. We're definitely going to talk about healthcare, like how this is going to impact us as a whole. So, Sukar, I'm going to let you kind of take it away in terms to just describe like what you've seen. I mean, I know like we've all kind of talked about like how this impacted us. I mean, the day that I found out that Roe v. Wade got overturned, I basically cried. I was just like, damn. I was in a state of shock. But,
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us were in the same place, same space, same place of mind because I did cry as well. And I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. I mean, I think a bunch of people were because, okay, so it's not as if we did not know. Actually, a lot of us expected this to happen. I mean, especially after the leak, right?
mm-hmm.
So like, yeah. I mean, it was coming down in the month of June. We knew that, so we were expecting it, but still, um, just the fact that not we, but like they managed to erase decades of progress in like one decision like that. And it's not like that decision, as you said, will not affect only one thing, but it's gonna have a chain reaction. It's going to have a ramification on a lot of things. So that was just shocking. I mean, I think a lot of us were shocked, and I
Mm-hmm.
think alarmed right now, because we just like I mean, I personally really do not know how terrible things are going to get. I mean, I hope not. I hope I mean, I don't know. I hope either people can stop it or somebody can step in some anyway, but yeah. So yeah. And it's not okay. So I know we're gonna go into this, but it's not only about okay, so in terms of like freedom over our body, like choices, choice over our bodies. I mean, it is the thing, but that's not the only thing though. I mean, because it's going to affect gay marriage, it's going to affect possibly interracial marriages, uh and a lot of other things. So it's a very, very scary thing. So you know
Yeah, it really goes like into that. But I also wanted to kind of go into. It looks like we lost Justin for a minute,
yeah.
so he'll probably be back. Um, but yeah, what's going on in this country is it. Okay, so like when I first heard this, like I was shocked, but I wasn't shocked, if that makes sense, because this is something that they've been wanting to do for a long time, and they finally got it. It's like I'm just what the shocking part for me is like why the fuck are we going backwards? Like, we have been growing as a society. Technology's out. Like, everything is out there now.
Mm,
It's like, why are we going backwards? We need to be going forward.
yeah. See, the argument a lot of people are making, and no, you have to understand like where I am coming from, because I am an immigrant in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So and I don't really, I don't pretend to speak for all immigrants, because that's impossible. I'm just only one person. But personally, um I came to this country believing certain things about this country, and in the course of 32 years that I've been here, I was made aware. Yeah, yes, this country has a lot of issues. I mean, a lot of very serious issues. But at the same time, a lot of things in this country actually are very admirable. For instance, people do have um very strong drive to change things, change things for better, which actually is really not seen in a country like Japan, where I'm from. So, but I guess, what I'm trying to say is that, um, having said that, I've been hearing from a lot of people that, well, this is actually really not surprising because this country, to begin with, was not founded upon, you know, uh, including, this philosophy of including everyone. It was never founded upon that. It was built for, white male, right? Basically, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this country, honestly, it's disappointing to me right now. I feel like we're just a laughing embarrassment right now. It's really just depressing. Like, so I wanted to go ahead and just hop right into this. So, we do have another panelist that unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So she wanted me to go ahead and just speak on what she would love to talk about when it comes to the Roe v. Wade. Um, so she actually works in the medical field, and I mean, there's a lot of gray areas that she mentioned. So, like, I want to go into this first question. What happens when a patient has experienced like sexual assault? What are we supposed to do then? That is very traumatizing from a mental health perspective. Okay, so I actually kind of want to go into that. Autonomy and mental health, there is a reason why we have it established that we are not going to impose our values onto them. We are not to be authoritarian with them. It is in our code of ethics as mental health professionals. Because when we try to tell people what to do, and that basically just robs their independence to make any choices or decisions. That is what autonomy means in my field. And what these people are doing, I mean, they're robbing their autonomy, which in case point is going to damage their mental health. If they are not able to make these choices and explore on their own, their mental health goes bad. Just kind of like what they're doing to trans youth, or at least trying to implement these laws with trans youth. I kind of want to point out some hypocrisies with this whole thing. A lot of people talk about like we need to listen to the science. However, I don't think people really pay attention to the science because, like people, at least on the mental health side, nobody's paying attention to that. And I actually want to share some stats that I actually found on the Trevor Project. They did some statistics in 2021. So let me go ahead and pull up my screen, and I'm going to make sure I get rid of this message so I do not have to deal with that. Okay. So this is the Trevor Project. They did a survey on LGBTQ youth and mental health. I want everybody to pay attention to these stats. 42% of LGBTQ youth last year considered attempting suicide, and more than half of them were transgender and non-binary. And if you look at the how it impacts with people of color, 31% of Native and Indigenous youth attempted this. 21% of Black Americans experienced this. 21% of multiracial, 18% of Latinx, 12% for Asian and Pacific Islander, and even us as white people. 94% of LGBTQ youth reported that recent politics negatively impacted their mental health. So I kind of want to talk about that because this is the science. This is the statistics. We should not be ignoring this whatsoever. And I also actually want to just debunk some of these things that people are saying about how it's not safe. If you kind of scroll down to affirming spaces, so affirming spaces is basically somebody that basically environments where it's safe to be who they are. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this in. So when it comes to youth and affirming spaces, 71% found an online space to be safe, 47% at school, 33% at home.
Mhm.
You got to kind of wonder why that is. Because the reason why, at least in my opinion, like the home spaces, like the reason why that statistic is low is because a majority of LGBTQ are experiencing parents that are being authoritarian with their children and
Mhm.
not allowing them to express themselves and to explore. Being in an online space, you have that ability to do that. I mean, if you put all the harassment that we experience to the side, it
Yeah.
still gives us an outlet to express ourselves and get away from that. The school statistic, in my opinion, that's kind of like a little bit of a middle ground.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I'm not saying all school systems are bad, but I mean, you got to kind of admit, like for me personally, I cannot take the anti-bullying policy seriously just because of my own personal experiences.
Mhm.
But I want to go down. So this is what LGBTQ youth describes, and they found strengths: having affirming parents, anime, and they're
Mhm.
coming out with more like LGBTQ youth animes. They do believe in celebrities coming out with pride. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, to be honest. Okay, the youth need role models. And I'm sorry, like the thing, I kind of have a mixed feelings with celebrities just because like they have the money. They
Mhm.
have that ability to transition.
Yep.
But most of us can't.
Mhm.
Most of us cannot transition because they do not have access to health care.
Right.
And even if the ones that do have access to healthcare, they're afraid to go to their providers, which is what another statistics I actually want to bring up. Actually, this is from the United States Trans Survey. They are going to be doing one in 2022, and I do want to encourage every trans non-binary person to participate in this because the more awareness, the better. So, when it comes to Asian and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, look at these statistics. 41% of trans people were sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
11% were assaulted in the past year. 26% of those that saw a healthcare provider in the past year had at least one negative experience. So, this is what trans people go through in medical settings. They are being refused treatment. They are being verbally harassed. They are being physically or sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
Or, and the thing that's the most annoying for me, having to teach the provider about the trans community. I also
Mhm.
want to go into the Native Americans. Okay. 65%. 65%. Please let that number sink in. Of American Indian and Alaska Native respondents have been sexually assaulted at some point of their lifetime. Compared to the rest of the 47%, 17% were assaulted in that past year. In that past year. And 2% of American Indian and Alaska Native respondents were living with HIV, which is about 7 times higher the rate in the US population.
Mhm.
When it comes to Latino or Latina or Latinx, when it comes to seeing a healthcare provider, 32% of them experience what I mentioned before: being refused treatment, being verbally harassed, being assaulted. This is not okay. And there's a reason I'm actually sharing these statistics. We already have challenges with this to begin with. If this is stripped away, like, I mean, this is essentially going to kill us from a mental health perspective. And as we discussed on the last stream, those statistics are probably not even shown. We hear about the trans lives that have been murdered, but are we really hearing about the ones that take their own lives? I've not personally seen it. I'm going to go ahead and share one more statistic here. When it comes to Black Americans, 53% of them have been sexually assaulted at some point in their lifetimes, and 13% were assaulted in this past year. 34% of them experienced all this shit in a healthcare setting. I really want that to sink in. So how is this, I guess, what I would actually ask to my other co-host that I am actually going to bring on here, what are we going to do now? What's going to happen to all these people who need to get an abortion because they've been sexually assaulted? What are we going to do about this? This is going to impact them mentally. Like, you got to kind of understand it from a trauma perspective. You know, it's really weird. And the hypocrisy of what I see in the pro-life argument. You know, they talk about how much human life matters, but yet you're allowing psychological trauma to these people that are experiencing this.
Yep.
Flat out hypocrisy. And I want to make an actual PSA to these evangelical Christians, because let's face it, they are the evangelical Christians that are basically the wacky ones that have been creating so much division in this country. Okay, I really don't want to go too deep into religion, but just for me being a Christian, what I see is very disappointing. I honestly want to just say you all need to stop reading Old Testament times. We are not in Old Testament times. We are in New Testament times where Jesus is the Savior and we are left with a choice. There is free will in the Bible. Please look it up. That is essentially why we go to Jesus, is so he can forgive us for our sins. Stop dictating to people. Stop forcing religion onto people. God even says you have to come to him. He did not say you all need to do this. That is authoritarian. It's not right. I'm so sorry, but you guys need to actually just sit and reflect, because this is flat out hypocrisy. And by the way, this is why people steer away from Christianity. You're defying Jesus, and you know what? You honestly should not be calling yourselves Christians. I don't know what kind of fucking religion this is, but you know what? That is not true, authentic Christianity. And I'm really so sick and tired of it. I'm so sick and tired of hearing this. Human life is human life.
Yep.
At the end of the day. And I am so sorry I had to go on that little rant, but with all those statistics that we see, this is fucking depressing. I cannot wait to see what the 2022 survey actually displays. I'm going to bet you money it's higher now. I mean, because if you consider, like, with all the trans lives have been lost, it's been growing. Like I've stated before, in 2020, at least 44 of them had died. 2021, 57 of them. Now in 2022, 17. The recent one that died was in Pride Month. Pride Month. Let that sink in. This stuff is getting worse. So I wanted to hear some more of your perspective, Sukru, after just kind of like looking over these statistics, and how can we really like combat this? Because honestly, like, okay, one more thing I'm going to say about this, and then I'll go ahead and let you interject. I really admire the women that are out in the street right now protesting. I think most of us really need to be out there. I mean, obviously, we should be taking precaution and taking care of ourselves. But you know what? I don't even care. Like, this is something that is, for me, it's worth fighting for. I actually saw a video yesterday. Since this overturn of Roe V Wade, it's really like exposed more of these transphobes. There is a fellow trans woman that I duetted last night, and a man came up to
Mhm.
her in public and basically said, I cannot wait for the moment when it becomes legal to hunt you down. We are coming close to that point.
Mhm.
This is very depressing.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Suker. I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Yeah, it is really depressing as you said it. I actually, okay, to be honest, I just actually came from a webinar that was like led by trans women, and it's a Medicare for All seminar, and they were talking about similar statistics that you just mentioned. So yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of like in a yeah, it's a very depressing state of the world. And having said that, okay, so obviously, um, you know what they say, what we say as an organizer, do not agonize but organize. So yeah, it is very important for actually for our mental health, speaking of mental health, because
Mm-hmm.
um this sense of like loss of control over our lives is really not good for us, as you
Mm-hmm.
probably can speak, at length about this, I'm sure. But yeah, not feeling like we don't have a control over our
Mm-hmm.
lives, it really affects our emotional health. And
Mm-hmm.
so how do we combat that? How do we fight that? We have to be out there fighting. We have to make our voices heard. And also, do not isolate yourself. It's very important right now. Do not isolate yourself, because it's so easy to get into this mindset of despair. And if you are alone, uh you just I get into that mindset as well, so please do not be alone. Please seek out, and please seek out group other people to organize with. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, I can't emphasize this enough. Okay, so it is a fight. Okay, since it's abortion, or it's motivated by this Roe v. Wade. So we hear about this like it's a woman's fight. It's not, though. I mean, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's important. It's important to highlight and amplify women's voices. Having said that, it's for every one of us. It's all of us. We are fighting together because, as I said previously, it's going to affect all of us. So and we have to fight together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's alarming to me that, hate saying it, but some women, some feminists out there are anti-trans. I know
Yep.
that. And
Yep.
it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's detrimental, actually. Uh, if you are feminist and if you are transphobic, you are hurting yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
hurting yourself. You're hurting the movement, because we are all in this together. Yeah. So um one thing I wanted to say, though, actually, okay, so in terms of abortion, and I actually come from my own experience. I mean, I've never had abortion myself, but I actually considered once. Okay, so things like sexual assault, that's sort of like that's a very real case, but it's extreme case, right? So when people get into this rhetoric about, oh, women have to have a choice when uh she's sexually assaulted, yes, but not only then, though. Women have to have a choice, period. Because a lot of women, and I'm talking about myself here, in my previous life, when I was living my life socially recognized as women, very long time,
Mm-hmm.
they face a very, very serious choice over their career, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. So like imagine yourself being very, being, well, okay, you don't have to be very young, but at some point of your life, you're looking into the future, you are trying to develop your career, right? And then you are pregnant. It's a serious issue for women. You know, if you don't have a choice to get an abortion, uh, you may not have a career that you want. You may not be able to have a life that you dreamed of. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not fair.
Mm-mm.
That is not fair. So um I just hate to I mean I just hate it when people go to this place that, oh yeah, you have to have a reason to get an abortion. uh she does not have to explain herself. She should be able to choose. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
please do not ask women to explain themselves, because she does not owe you an explanation. It's her life. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to say that because it's a really important point. And okay, so I know some men. Actually, I have a friend who is a Japanese man,
Mm-hmm.
who actually says, "Oh, but abortions, it's a serious issue. So you um, his point basically is like, oh, it's good. It's not good if you can have it easily. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, it's not easy for anyone. Okay, it's not easy for anyone. It's not like you going to like what, like go and get a haircut or something like that. It's not easy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
um and why are not men accountable for pregnancy? They should be held accountable for too, right?
Amen. Speak
Okay,
that.
so I mean, okay, so this is, a lot of people are talking about, kind of like a half jokingly, but
Mm-hmm.
vasectomy. Okay, that has to, I mean, okay, that has to be on the table. I mean, come on, isn't that like only on women? I don't think so. I mean, what about
Yeah.
men? So like when men like have to, go on preaching like, oh, but women have to be responsible, it's like maybe like she should be more careful not to get pregnant. Okay, maybe you should be more careful not to impregnate someone. Come on, guys.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, same.
Seriously. I mean, do they just automatically think that women just get magically pregnant? No, they do that shit. That these men, I can't
No,
with them. But
no.
I also want to make a point. Like I've also seen this counter argument. It's like, well, you can also give them away for adoption. I mean, you consider that. It's like, but you guys aren't even taking care of the kids, though. You want women to have all these babies, but you're not taking care of them.
Mm,
Some of them go through a really horrid system. And I'm referring to more of like the group homes where all this nasty shit happens to them and nothing effectively has been done to stop
mm,
it. If you care about the children, provide health care for them, make sure that the space is safe. If you really give a shit about kids, you would be doing this. You would not be sitting there being authoritarian with the children.
yep.
I am so sick of this crap. Like, I am so sick of this hypocrisies that I see. It's annoying. And I want to actually go into another topic. It actually kind of ties into what I was actually going to say. So, what happens when the patient of a low income family can't support their child?
Mm,
This is what we're talking about. This is why this Roe v. Wade is pretty serious to us. It's like, I mean, it actually kind of goes beyond Roe v. Wade anyway, but it's just like, still, what's going to happen with the families that don't meet the guidelines? What are
mhm.
you doing to help those kids? I would really like to hear their opinions about this.
Yeah.
You're neglecting these people. Again, it goes back to robbing their autonomy.
Mhm.
There is specific reasons. And I also want to put this other PSA. In the Bible, it says that we should not make judgments. I am also really sick and tired of the fact, okay, like this is something that's been kind of boggling my mind all day. You know how we've been saying, like with the trans community, like we shouldn't be generalized. That goes even for specific issues, even with people with abortion. Each woman, each trans man, each of us are unique when it comes to abortion. There's different circumstances. Stop generalizing that population. Stop it.
Yeah.
Each woman has a unique story. Each trans man has a unique story. Listen to them. We need to really, okay, this is my thing. I am not going to encourage violence on anybody, but you know what? Like, we really need to be in these people's faces, and we need to be in them pretty aggressively. People need to stop, like, trying to be in a comfortable space right now. We need to be in this because this is an uncomfortable thing. And as I've always said on this network, we need to start engaging in uncomfortable conversations. They are healthy. We need to get into these people in power. We need to get in their face. If they really care about the country and talk about how our country is great, no, they need to hear from everyone. We elected these people to come in power to help us. This is their job.
Yep.
We need to hold them accountable. Accountability goes everywhere. It is not to serve as a single benefit. Accountability applies to everyone. We all need to be holding these people accountable.
Yep.
And I will tell you one thing that I will say about the Roe v. Wade. Did you see like how many cops they've been out there like pushing these women to the ground? Like I actually had a coworker tell me about that. They were saying, well, you know, the government fucked up when they have that many cops. So in a sense, I think they knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
That's what's disgusting to me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this? Like, I mean, this is just.
Yeah. God, what can I say? Okay, police. Yeah. First of all, yeah. It's really alarming. What's happening in big cities like LA. I mean, I live in LA, so naturally, I kind of watch things that are happening here. I'm sure it's happening in other cities as well, but yeah, it's been very very disgusting and very alarming what's happening in LA because, as you said, yeah, they are. I mean, a lot of police, a lot of cops are out there right now in downtown LA because that's where like daily protests are happening right now, and and they just really are showing their true colors, so to speak, because now they don't even hide it. They are actually, I mean, you can plainly see, based on how they are behaving, that they are really not to protect and serve the people. They're actually protecting and serving the interest of the state, not the people. Because like when so as far as I know, I mean, last I checked, protesting and free speech are basic human rights in this country. We have the right to be out there and protest. But these cops are not honoring that right. They are attacking us, they are attacking journalists, they are attacking legal observers. Okay, this is serious, people. Legal observers are being attacked. When I saw that video footage that someone took in LA, I was just really alarmed because legal observers are some people who we rely upon, we organizers. When we organize any kind of rallies, protests, like, we request the presence of legal observers because we know that they are going to protect us. You know, we rely upon them as a protective measure. Well, when cops are attacking them, we have no protection whatsoever anymore. You know, it's serious.
I want to share with you. I had to go look for the clip, but just in case people are not understanding like what's going on with LA, I actually found a clip of what's going on in LA. So let me pull this up. Okay, let me start it over. They had to pull the small dick syndrome there. Okay, first of all, I gotta say I like that graffiti that says "fuck cops." I'm sorry, I had to kind of like laugh at that for a moment, but like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
they were really attacking that one woman. I mean, I was holding my breath because I was getting so pissed off, so fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
They really like exposed, like they really have an ego problem. I call it the small dick syndrome, okay? Like they have to basically act all big and bad just to make up for what they're missing.
But the scary thing, though,
compensating.
they are actually, yeah, okay, I hate to say it, they are doing their job, though. Okay, because
Yeah,
if they were not authorized to do that, they won't be doing that. They can do that because that's their job. They are doing exactly that they are expected to do, which is really scary. It's a fucking scary business, you know.
yeah.
Because they won't be doing it out in the open if that was not their job. That's exactly, you know, what their job description is. Because they are not here to protect us.
Nope. And I kind of wanted to bring back a point that you mentioned, like being out in the open. This is why 2020 for me was like, actually, I hate to even quote him with Bill Maher, the fucking. Because the reason why is because the fact so many masks came off. Like people were out in the open about everything. I mean, even with the election too, they pretty much told us who to vote for. They were proudly like attacking people. They're shaming people now. I get shamed. It's depressing. And it's just been getting worse and worse.
Yep.
And I really hope people start waking up and realizing like this shit is real. Stop engaging in performative bullshit. Like plain and simple. Stop engaging in it. And honestly, I want to kind of go talk about that a little bit. I honestly think this performative bullshit really revealed itself in 2016 when Trump became president. This is why we do not need to have celebrities in office. It's because now we're not, it's basically been one big distraction, in my opinion. People want to focus on the petty bullshit instead of actually looking around and seeing what's going around and noticing that these things are real.
Yep.
They would rather talk about the little things that aren't really important. Again, it kind of goes back to just wanting to be in that safe, comfortable space. No, get out of that. I encourage you all to get out of that. So I actually also want to talk about a third point that my friend Melinda actually mentioned, What happens if the patient has a sepsis, meanwhile pregnant? So basically, it's the body's extreme response to an infection. If you're ready for human life, why the fuck are you going to kill women this way? And trans men?
Mm,
This
yeah.
is dangerous. I want to ask all that question. How do you expect women to make babies if they end up getting in this situation? You're killing them off essentially.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But this is not okay. I mean, me, before I even transitioned, like, I never personally experienced that. Like, I had a scare at one point and thought maybe I may have had an ectopic, but it wasn't the case. But still, even just the thought of that, that's scary.
Yep.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
scary. And, that's the thing that really just kind of disgusts me about this whole overturn and their garbage logic. Because let's just admit it, the logic is garbage.
Yep.
Um, Here's one that she had mentioned. Is it fair to medical staff to go to jail if they perform an abortion to help the patient? And she's made a statement to say that politics should not mess with the medical field as their job in another field. Hopefully, like, she's hoping this law gets overturned soon and that will ease the tension in the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be a medical professional, I'm a mental health professional, but like, I can only imagine what it's like for them. This is scary for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to hear your thoughts on this, Sukuru. Actually, I'm going to go turn on the light, but I do want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, I wish. So there was this tweet going around, right? I mean, this woman, who wanted to educate people, what abortions include. Essentially what Melinda was saying, like, so stillbirth, things like that, like when your fetus dies in your body and you can't, mother's body cannot naturally release the dead fetus. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's abortion. If you operate on her, that's abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are saying that you cannot perform any abortions, you are killing the mother.
Yep.
And I mean, I okay, so I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that I mean, education is really, really needed, in that regard. And I mean, Melinda's right. I mean, I just can't imagine, like, right now being in the medical profession, medical field,
Mm-hmm.
and having to. Well, I mean, first of all, okay, so you take you as far as I know, you take the oath, right? When you become a medical professional, that, like, you are essentially, there to um save people's lives. I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole purpose that you're there, and having to kind of do the opposite, having to look the other way because
Mm-hmm.
the law says you can't do that. That's I don't know. That's just really unthinkable to me.
It really is. And even coming from a mental health side, like, just imagine what we're going to have to go through too. Like, what if these women come to us and, they're going to be, like, in a sense, suffering mentally. And, like, in a sense, it's going to put us in a position where we may violate our own ethics. And honestly, like, that's scary for me.
Mm,
Like, I mean, if they're going after medical professionals, I mean, I'm scared to see how they're going to come after mental health professionals next. Like, that's scary to me. It's like, oh, you either do this or go to jail. No, enough with the authoritarianism. Like,
yeah.
I'm over it.
Mm,
I
mm,
wanted to go ahead and I'm trying to look for this. I know there's a page that you shared with me. Let me see. When it comes to, give me just a minute, Sugar. I'm trying to.
sure. So while you're doing that, so So essentially, like including this Roe v. Wade, including abortion issue, what's going on right now is a lot of things are being put in the hands of state.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, like they are saying, they are saying that, oh yeah, states should decide. Each state should decide what they do, what they think of it. It is a very dangerous trend, though. It is very dangerous because, okay, so there will be kind of sanctuary states like California. But
Yep.
first of all, I just feel that, um, even though some may argue that since each state can make its own decisions, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
um I just don't think that it's first of all it's gonna create kind of like a civil war kind of situation. It's gonna divide this country into like red states and blue states, which really yeah, we don't want to live in that kind of country. I promise you, and also even though state, like right now, I guess state can make its own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
um it's actually not ultimately, it's not going to be like, oh, we are safe in California. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be like that, because like look at what's happening with the open carry policy. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
that
I
that
mean,
the federal decision will affect state decision as well.
mm-hmm.
So like we are in a serious danger, like when it comes to like open carry policy, because it's gonna affect the what state of California says
Mm-hmm.
about whether or not we can open carry. So like that, what federal level, what's decided at the federal level will have ramifications on the state level. So ultimately, this is really, really actually not a good, um, yeah, good thing that's happening. So
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It's so insane. But I actually want to pull up some additional stats by state reports when it
mm.
comes to healthcare, when it comes to trans people. Let me get my screen back up so I can share it. Da-da-da-da-da.
Are you looking for that map?
Oh no, I got the map pulled up, so I want to go by state reports, okay? And we're gonna go
Right.
through California first when it comes to healthcare. This was done in 2015. Again, I'm kind of interested to see what 2022 is gonna bring. But let me see. Let's see. Restaurant, police interactions, healthcare. 25% of transgender non-binary respondents, they experienced a problem in the past year with their insurance because they're trans, because they were denied coverage for care related to gender transition, or being denied coverage for routine care because they were transgender. This is in California. 33% of them who saw a healthcare provider had that negative experience that I mentioned earlier: being refused treatment, being verbally harassed, being physically or sexually assaulted. 22% in that past year did not even see a doctor because they had that fear of being mistreated as being trans. 27% of them did not see a doctor when they needed it because they could not afford it. This is the one that stuck out to me. 36% of those that experience all this, they experienced a serious psychological distress in the month before completing the survey. This is depressing. Now, with this Roe v. Wade stuff being overturned, I'm going to bet money those stats are going to double, if not triple. This is in California.
Hmm.
You interested in another state we could see? Because they got a whole bunch of them. Let's see. So I kind of want to actually touch on this. I hate the fact that everything is a blue and red issue. It's not a blue and red issue. This is a human rights issue.
Right.
It should not be all about the blue and the red. But I kind of want to go back to accountability. It goes both ways. We see a lot of people, if we really kind of want to go into that direction with the red and blue issue, there's a lot more stuff about red states that are more highlighted than blue states. And again, accountability goes both ways. So I actually want to pull up another one. So let's pull up Colorado. When it comes to healthcare, 33% of them experience this problem, being denied coverage. 42% had a negative experience. 20% did not see a doctor because of the fear. 37% couldn't afford it. 40% experienced a serious psychological distress. 14% of them reported that a professional such as a psychologist, counselor, or religious advisor tried to stop them from being transgender. This is embarrassing for me, to be honest, when it comes to my field. This is so embarrassing. Counselors need to remember, okay, we signed up for this field because we want to help people. We are there to help others. We should not be imposing our values or telling somebody what they should and should not do. If you're one of those professionals that are doing that, I am going to encourage you to go hold yourself to account and report yourself to the ACA or the APA. This is why people do not come to mental health professionals. This is why. It's very disgusting. There is also, this is the one thing that I'm personally working on with a professor of mine in my grad program. We're trying to actually advocate that mental health professionals, before they even graduate grad school, this needs to be added as a competency. Because there are more and more of us coming out. And honestly, okay, like, so how it works in grad school when it comes to teaching about multicultural issues. So we do take a class that is multicultural issues, but I mean, it is more focused on race and ethnicity, not so much with LGBTQ plus issues. Or what I've personally experienced in my program, there wasn't really much books that we were allowed to read. When it comes to LGBTQ issues, they actually just sent us articles. And honestly, I just was like, okay, my jaw dropped, to be honest. But it needs to be added as a competency, because I'm not trying to say that we should like get rid of the competency after the fact. I definitely think that should stay, but it needs to be taught to mental health professionals, because personally, what I've experienced in this field, I have had to educate other mental health professionals. And honestly, like for me, like, kind of conflicted, to be honest, because like I don't mind educating, but in the same breath, I feel like I shouldn't even have to. We shouldn't have to. They should know this stuff. And if you kind of like look at the overall picture when it comes to trans issues, who is actually writing that research and these toolboxes for other providers? Trans people. They are cis people.
Right.
Which creates a lot of mistrust when it comes to mental health. I have heard stories from other trans non-binary people who have gone to mental health professionals that have put that label on, saying, oh, well, I am a specialist in gender affirming care. I am a specialist when it comes to LGBTQIA plus issues. They go to them. They will hang the rainbow flags in their office or the trans flags in their office. But once they get to said provider, the provider actually has absolutely no idea what the fuck it is. I actually want to make a PSA to mental health professionals, because I have had this told to me. Having a rainbow flag or a trans flag in your office does not certify you as an ally. You have to demonstrate that you're an ally. Okay? Hear trans people out. Listen to them. Do not try to pull the Karen entitlement syndrome and act like you know more than us. Actually, hear our voices. If you're for supporting trans people, let us use our voice.
Mm.
And I actually want to put a PSA out here because I know a lot of people like talk about like people won't take you seriously if unless you have a credential. I'm so sorry. Um, I want to remind people you don't need a credential to use your voice.
Right.
You really don't. I mean, it's
Mm.
pretty sad that we live in a country where you have to have a credential to actually be taken seriously. Honestly, it shouldn't be that way. What we experience as humans is our credential. It is our credential. Don't let that stuff stop you or intimidate you from using your voice. You have that power. And I have made many statements and arguments that this society as a whole has been traumatized in a lot of different ways. I blame most of it on capitalism.
Yep.
I mean, because like we stated in the last show, capitalism preys on the weak.
Mm. Yep.
We are in a traumatic time right now. And I would actually argue that's why people aren't using their voice because they've been used to just being told, you need to shut the fuck up. This isn't important. No, surviving is important. Use your voice. Use your voice. I am definitely going to go ahead and make sure I say that more than once. But I also want to share the screen when it comes to that map that you're referring to, Suker. I'm going to actually have you explain that. So let me go ahead and, because I know you sent me the link, so I want to make sure that you. Okay. So here's the map. So take it away, Suguru.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was kind of interesting, if people wanna like look at it and see. I'm just actually looking at it on my end because I can't really look at the screen. It's kind of small. Anyway, so this tells you it's called lgbtmap.org. Let's see, what is it? It's a movement advancement project.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a map of healthcare laws and policies. So you can actually get sort of a overview. It's a very nice tool to check the overview of like each state, what kind of policies and laws they have in terms of private insurance, medical care bans, Medicaid, state
Mm-hmm.
employee benefits, and stuff like that. So you can actually click on it and see like who has what kind of laws. So like for instance, private insurance, I think that's the map that's on the screen right now. But
I
so
pulled up Arkansas.
right, yeah, that's the one with the Arkansas is orange, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's color coded. So what that orange means, for instance, it's the so Arkansas has a law explicitly permits insurers to refuse to cover gender affirming care. So yeah, that's kind of like the worst case scenario. But so like the color that you see predominantly on the both coasts, including California, New York, Massachusetts, and stuff like that. That's actually that's the law prohibits health insurance discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So it's 15 states and one territory plus Washington D.C. has the essentially laws protect LGBTQIA plus from discrimination in health insurance discrimination. So, like for instance, the kind of like a so yeah, including Texas, that's sort of like a pale color. What is it? Pale khaki? I don't know. Beige,
Mm-hmm.
I guess beige color. That's 27 states. That's a no. There's no law providing LGBTQ inclusive insurance protections. So yes, so that kind of thing, you can actually see from this map. So I thought that was, this was kind of interesting if you want to kind of look at and get the idea, what kind of laws like each state has in terms of like health insurance and state, Medicaid um, policies. But actually, okay, so I kind of wanted to mention one thing,
Mm-hmm.
not entirely related to this map, to be honest, but it actually, I was thinking about this like when you, Noah, was, I think, reading of statistics, in the previous source. So when it comes to transgender population, though, um, not that like state laws do not matter,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is um transgender population has a lot of like intersectional issues
Mm-hmm.
such as poverty. So while there are laws that protect against health insurance discriminations and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
when you are poor, though, you don't have health insurance to begin with. Um, in
Yep.
a lot of cases, and so the poverty rate amongst transgender population is like 4 times uh, that of the general population,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these issues, like should be like taken into account, like when you look at the reality of like what we face. So yeah. So uninsured rates. Let's see. Is this transgender? Okay, this is not specific transgender, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Transgender population 4 times likely to be living below poverty level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, 34% have incomes below 200% of poverty level compared to 25% of cisgender population. Okay, that's a lot of numbers. Like that's kind of confusing, but um,
At
what I
the end
want.
of the day, at the end of the day, like trans people are getting it much worse than cis people right now. Like that's
Yeah,
essentially like what it
yeah.
is. It
So
impacts us more.
right. And I guess like I was trying to comment on like what you said about, blue state versus red state. It actually doesn't even matter to,
Point taken.
transgender people, because like we have a lot of really like fundamental difficulties, when it comes to um life in general. I mean, such as poverty, housing discrimination, assault, that you mentioned. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I was thinking about this before when you were talking about statistics. Um,
I just wanted to put it out there that it still exists. It doesn't matter. The point that I was really trying to just establish, it shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
mm,
Hate exists everywhere. It
right.
exists everywhere. It's not about a state and their party affiliation. It's not a red or blue issue. Hate is
Right.
hate.
Mm, yep.
I
Well.
mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. We need to just stop it. But
Mm,
I'm trying to think of another or here. I actually want people to be aware about this because I don't think people have been updated about this when it comes to the trans community. So let me go ahead and pull this up. So I want to remind people this is a site to go to when it comes to tracking LGBTQ related legislation right now. Right now, there's almost 400 of these right now.
yep.
Almost 400. Let's see. There is let's look at youth healthcare actually and see what we can actually pull up here. This one, honestly, I don't even like the title. It sounds gross. Enact to save adolescents from experimentation. I'm sorry. That's a crappy title for a bill. It's like, what kind of shit is this? Okay, Kansas. They're trying to make it a crime for a doctor to perform gender reassignment. It looks like it may have not have passed. It died. So good thing that didn't pass. There's some that they're trying. Like even though like some of these have failed, it dismisses the fact that they're still not trying.
Right.
See, Kansas, Missouri, they were trying to do it and stop it. Looks like they were trying to create provisions. I'm glad like some of the here we go. Alabama. Public health, minors' biological male or female sexual state practices to alter or affirm minors' sexual identity or perception, such as prescribing puberty-blocking medications or surgeries, prohibited, exceptions, nurses and school personnel. Okay, I think this is a perfect time, honestly, to debunk some of this because you know where some of this is coming from, right? Is the whole thing about detransitioning. I want to remind people, okay, in the U.S. total, only 8% have detransitioned, but if you really kind of break that down, 2%, which is a very small percentage of people, authentically just decide, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. The rest of them are basically like forced to detransition because they don't have access to it anymore, or it's creating psychological distress. Stop making this as an excuse to enforce this. Like I've always said, it takes one flaw to make a stigma.
Yeah.
This is one of these flaws. I've seen a lot of people in our community and the trans community spread this toxic garbage that we need to stop like doing this to youth. There's a lot of even healthcare professionals. I actually saw, I cannot remember her name, but she is a trans healthcare professional, and she's been actually actively transphobic, talking about, well, this is just a trend. We need to stop this trend. No.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know why, though? You know why this is becoming a big thing? It's because we have been growing, or at least we would thought that we would be in a more accepting society to come out as who we are. I want to reiterate, back in my time, it wasn't safe to come out as trans. Hell, it was even hard even trying to come out as lesbian or gay.
Yep.
Like, you got to think of that. This is why more people are coming out.
Can I say two things actually? Okay.
Go ahead.
This has been such a loaded topic, but okay, so Noah, I just really want you to speak on this because okay, so as I mentioned, I was in this webinar previously before this, before I came onto this show tonight. And somebody is commenting that, in the chat because it was Zoom meeting. So their acquaintance, and these people are all like healthcare justice activists. So somebody that they know, they are insisting, this person was insisting that transgender people have mental health issues, right? Meaning that like we are like mentally ill. That's why we are transgender, right? Kind of rhetoric. Okay, people, it's not that. I guess, okay, what I'm trying to say, what I struggle with, I don't actually personally struggle with this. I just struggle with convincing these people. Okay, so like myself, we may have a mental health issues, but that's not because of we are transgender. Okay, living transgender lives is very stressful. Okay, living a life pretending to be someone else for 50 years was fucking stressful. That's why I have mental health issues, not the other way around. Okay, so I mean, as a mental health professional, would you speak on this? I mean, like, can you like explain this to people so that they understand? I mean, we are not insane, okay? Yeah.
I mean, okay, first of all, okay. I hope honestly gender dysphoria gets out of the DSM, honestly. Because once upon a time, homosexuality was in the DSM, but they got rid of it. because they once said that people who were homosexual, they had a mental illness. Same thing needs to happen to gender dysphoria, to be honest. And at least in my point of view, like the whole purpose of why gender dysphoria is in the DSM is because it's to justify surgeries, to justify the treatment. That is why it's in there. But in a sense, too, it kind of brings awareness. For me, experiencing this issue, we are not mentally ill. Gender dysphoria for me is not a mental illness. The fact of what we experience and not being able to express ourselves, that is what impacts our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. We know who we are. Societal traumas have been what has been contributing, at least for me, for my mental stuff. What I've experienced in this field. Being told that I need to dress my appropriate gender. Being told that transgender people need help because they struggle with dysphoria. Being told that you are never going to be a licensed professional because you're trans.
Wow. That's bullshit.
Basically telling people that you scare people because of your gender identity. That's what makes this hard for us. This, and I kind of want to put this out there too. You know, we hear this argument from Christians like, well, God doesn't make mistakes. I believe it's for a purpose. I believe, at least for me, from a spiritual perspective, I think it's more of the fact like this is our way of, like, in a sense, coming out as who we are. I feel like it's like for me at least, I mean, it could be different for everybody else, but for me, like, I feel like, yes, it was hard, you know, living as a female for 33 years, but I'm kind of glad I got exposed to it.
Yep.
It was my foundation to set me for who I am today.
Yep.
I feel like I was meant to live as a female for a while just to discover my true purpose. That's essentially what spirituality is about, is identifying your purpose.
Yep.
I know who I am now. Going through this transition, it goes beyond the medical terminology of like, the FTM. It goes beyond that for me. I know who I am, and that gives me comfort.
Right.
The things I experience now as a trans guy, it's more of like what we've been talking about. Just bullshit from society, bullshit from families. Gender dysphoria for me, it's not a mental illness, and I really wish people would stop saying that it is. Because it reinforces that stigma for trans people. Because you know what the stigma is with trans people, right? We are seen as pedophiles. We're seen as mentally unstable. We are seen as monsters. We're seen as stalkers. We're just basically seen as terrorists or anything but human. If we're in this, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that we are seen as defective, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I was just thinking upon, like, that statement that you brought up. Okay, God doesn't make mistakes. Well, I'm not a mistake. That's why.
No, we are not mistakes.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Because we are not mistakes. we are exactly what the God intended us to be. Whatever the God
Yes.
you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a beautiful world. Come on, people.
Yeah.
I'm a beautiful existence.
I mean, I just hate when people say that, to be honest. I'm sorry you actually had to endure that because, like, I mean, we're all going to have differences in opinions. But, I mean, for me personally, I don't see gender dysphoria as a mental illness. I just think it's more of a societal thing. Like, I had an interesting conversation today. I was interviewing for a position, and we were kind of having this discussion with the DSM. Every mental illness that is in the DSM, I mean, if you kind of put aside like the neurological stuff that's going on, like I'm talking about like ADHD, if you look at substance use, trauma issues, depression, a good majority of those mental illnesses are trauma contributors. They're different reactions to trauma. They're just putting different labels on it. I found that to be very interesting. And I would actually even argue to some degree gender dysphoria is kind of like one of them. Like this is why we're living in hell, is because we're being rejected. It's not a mental illness in itself. And I want to highlight this comment too. This is an overall consensus. A good majority of the trans community do not like this. We do not like this.
Yeah.
I really wish, and I hate that professionals to some degree are reinforcing that. It's reinforcing a stigma. I can't stand it. I just can't. I'm trying to. I wanted to pull up an article actually I caught earlier today, and I did send it over, but like it really just kind of stuck out to me because, and I feel like it needs to be discussed. To be honest, a second. So Alabama. They're saying access to gender affirming care is not deeply rooted in our nation's history. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's talk about that. I'm actually trying to process this, to be honest, right now. When I saw that, I was just like, wait a minute, wait. We're the land of the free. So that includes like we should be free to live ourselves how we should. I think this is a contradiction. So, because right now they do have a felony ban right now. And it's gross. It's disgusting. So I am going to highlight a quote where he said, transitioning treatments are neither deeply rooted nor implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. No one, adult or child, has a right to transitioning treatments that is deeply rooted in our nation's history and tradition. The state can thus regulate or prohibit those interventions for children, even if an adult wants the drugs for his child. There's another comment too. They're actually trying to get it to where it affects adults too. I mean, this just doesn't go just beyond with children. It goes with adults too. I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit briefly.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, Sukaru? Because honestly, like I was shocked when I was reading that. I was just trying to like, it just really boggled my mind.
God. Okay, so it's a very confusing statement to me. But I also know that that statement was inspired actually by the argument that was made for Roe v. Wade. So that's why the decision is very, very dangerous, because now they're gonna use it as a precedent. Anyway, but it's confusing to me because so when something is not rooted in history or tradition, I mean, how do we make a progress if we cannot do anything that's not rooted in our history or tradition? Because you are always looking at the past. I mean, it's confusing to me. It's like what you were saying about the Old Testament. I mean, we don't live in that era anymore. You can't be saying that. Okay, for instance, like you can be so in the age of like all the Testament. I mean, there were times that like we executed by like stoning people to death, right? Do we do that now? No, we don't, because it's barbaric. Okay, I mean, we don't do that now. Okay, that's frightening if we do that. Yeah, if something is like rooted in our history and tradition, and we keep doing that, and that's kind of like I guess sort of like an opposite argument or kind of reverse argument, but no, we don't do that. There are a lot of things that we don't do anymore because it's not appropriate now.
Mm-hmm.
So by the same token, if we are making progress as a human, as a humanity, I mean, you can't always like be looking at what was true. You can't be looking at only what was true in the past. Okay, so that's why it's so confusing to me. But also, actually, I wanted to make a reference because earlier I was thinking, so even in a state like California, where things are supposed to be progressive, I actually do not take it for granted. I
Mm-hmm.
would argue that this right that we enjoy, like for instance, like right now, gender affirming care is covered by Medical, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
state's Medicaid program,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting a benefit of that. But I don't take it for granted because when I first was put into a Medical program, I had a hard time actually getting the care that I need because people acted like it was something extra. It was
Right.
not something I needed, but it was something extra. And I was like trying to tell people, okay, come on, people, because a lot of people, a lot of cis people get hormone treatment, and
Mm-hmm.
they, their treatment is considered as a needed necessary care, right? But
Mm-hmm.
since I'm transgender, I'm getting this hormone treatment for my purpose. It's like it was treated like it was something that I can put off, and that was just really devastating to me and really infuriating because like why is there a difference? But
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm telling the story to demonstrate that even in the state of California, I think in some people's mind, maybe it's not even like maybe they're not even aware, but there is just like kind of like a gap or kind of subtle prejudice against transgenders, gender affirming care for trans people, that it's not medically necessary. It's something that it's something that we are doing as extra, and it's something that you can put it off.
Mm-hmm. I'll actually share. Okay, so for me personally, like it was kind of a pain in the ass. Like I couldn't even get approved for Medi-Cal. So like the way how I did my transition, I used my employer based insurance, but even that was a pain in the ass. Like I went through Sutter, and like getting on hormones was pretty easy. I was able to get my top surgery. I was able to get my hysterectomy, but of course I had other circumstances in a sense to kind of back up why I needed it. I mean, it kind of went beyond the fact that I was trans. I lost my brother in 2018, and he had a rare disease, and I got myself tested. I had a genetics test done, and I also was suffering from PCOS. And again, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It basically, in a sense, it produces more testosterone than estrogen. It basically stops you from getting pregnant. I mean, you have to use additional medications just to even get pregnant. There's cysts that grow on the ovaries. I mean, it was a pain in the ass to have for me, to be honest. But in a sense, the result is that I was susceptible to getting breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So I was able to get that justification on that level, so I didn't need the letters. Um, but like for bottom surgery, okay, so Sutter, like they require like two letters, I believe, from a mental health professional. Like one for that's actually another thing I will talk about here in a few minutes. Um, but for me with Kaiser is the one I actually specifically want to talk about, because Kaiser is parading around talking about like they're basically the best in transgender healthcare.
Mm.
I have had really poor experiences with Kaiser. Um, I'm not gonna say, I'm kind of like with you, Sukuru. Like I mean, I am benefiting from it. Like, I am getting the hormones, but like, I've been going through a hell process with Kaiser, and I know I'm not the only trans guy that's been dealing with that out here in California. When I was actually trying to get bottom surgery with Kaiser, like, they were kind of dicking around, and they put me on a wait list. Then they actually conveniently lost my referral, and I've had to go through the process again. For my child recently, I mean, I know you know, but I'll go ahead and just kind of give a brief statement about this. My child is trans. She's been on estrogen for, man, it's been close to 3 years. So she's been on the blocker just as long. And we drove to Oakland. And, you know, the Bay Area is predominantly like LGBTQ friendly. So I was like, okay, well, this is like kind of out of Sacramento. And that's where actually the transgender clinic is in Oakland, out here in Northern California. We went to the doctor. And honestly, I probably should have known something was off. I mean, the doctor had Harry Potter posters hanging in her office. I mean, I should have known that was probably a fucking turf vibe right there from the get go. Right. So, like, I should have known something was off, to be honest. But we went in there, and with my child has severe PTSD, and she has severe ADHD. And it's right now the challenge with her, she has a hard time kind of really like expressing thoughts and like really advocating for herself. She's getting better, but like she does have those challenges, and that's kind of where she looks to me to kind of prompt. I explained to the provider that Faith wanted to do injections for her estrogen. Just so you know, with estrogen, like taking the pill, like it really is not as effective as what people may want you to think, because it is a pill. It breaks down in your intestines, and you end up actually releasing more estrogen. You're not really intaking it. That's why people like do the injections, or for trans guys, it's the gel. I mean, the gel is kind of a slower effect, but also it's very risky too, because if you get the hormones on something else, I mean, that's very dangerous. I know with the estrogen, there's the patch, and everybody has said, like, from majority of the trans women that I have spoken to, they have said the patch has been pretty effective. But anyways, I tried to advocate on Faith's behalf that, hey, like, my kid wants to do injections, you know, even if a doctor does it or if I help her with it. You know, she even wanted to do her shots the same day I do mine, because we'd be able to help each other. This doctor told me that she didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I tried to get an explanation as to why. I was like, okay, so what do you do with trans boys? Oh, we put them on the injections. Please make that make sense to me, please. So you're perfectly okay with trans youth, that FTM trans youth doing injections, but not MTF? Not them. It's the same process. Like, she's trying to say, well, it's a little bit more risky. And I was like, well, that's why you get a checkup every 3 months. That's why you get your blood drawn, to make sure everything is okay. It's really not that hard. Like, she was trying to find different garbage excuses as to why she didn't want to give that to my child. My child is 14. Okay, she's not a little kid. She's 14. I mean, if the state of California actually says kids can decide where they live, they should have the right to decide what they want to do with their medical treatment too. I mean, let them experience that. If that's what she wants to do, she wants to do that. But besides that point, what else had happened is that the healthcare provider was asking about like the progress, because she had been off the blocker for a little bit because I lost my healthcare. So she went like a month and a half without the blocker. So I mean, I understood why the doctor had to ask the questions, because, you know, we want to make sure it's like the puberty didn't progress more. You know, she started asking my daughter about her bottom area. And, you know, Faith described it to her, but she was insisting on looking down her pants. And I was like, she told you. I mean, like, from a medical point of view, to some degree, I get it. But if a child tells you no, that means fucking no.
Right.
My child basically said, I don't feel comfortable with that. And so the doctor had asked me to leave the room. My daughter said, no, I want my dad in the room. She still kicked me out of the
Mm.
room. Still kicked me out of the fucking room.
Is that even legal? Or like maybe not legal, but like is that ethical to kick?
It's not ethical. It's not ethical. That's violating medical consent.
Right, right.
And I tried to call that out to them, but that's another story. But anyway, anyways, my daughter had asked, I even heard her in the room. She asked twice to have me back in the room. My daughter told me while I was out of the room, she tried to look down her pants anyway. Like she physically grabbed part of her pants and looked down her pants.
Oh my god.
Like, why are you so... I mean, that's disgusting to me.
It is.
And honestly, that's why I said, like, made the Harry Potter reference. Like, that's why I knew something was off. Because that's all TERFs care about is the fucking anatomy and what's down there. I suspected she was a TERF. So... But what was funny about this professional, she was talking about, well, I just don't have that much experience with hormone treatments with estrogen. And I'm like thinking to myself, then why the fuck are you being a specialist for fucking trans youth?
Right,
Why
right,
the
right,
fuck
right.
are you in this department? If you don't know about hormone treatments for trans youth, particularly with MTFs, then why the fuck are you practicing? Why?
Did you report her? I mean, did you file a complaint?
I did. I filed a complaint because shortly after that happened, my daughter had a panic attack. It was probably the worst one I'd ever seen. Like, my daughter couldn't really stand being around her. And when we went to go get the injection, I mean, my daughter started asking questions. And I'm sorry, I have a dog that's about to come in here.
Hello there.
But my daughter started asking questions. She didn't even want to have the injection anymore because she was just that scared. But we were able to calm her down and she was able to get the injection. But I mean, she had troubles breathing. Like her stomach was upset. She could barely talk.
No.
Oh, what's
Like
about that?
And speaking of which, my daughter is actually in the room.
Hello. Oh.
Hi, Faith.
Say hi, Faith.
I'm just fading in.
Okay.
I don't blame her though, because I mean, if that happens to me, I would be in a panic too. I wouldn't want like someone to like try to look down under my my pants. I mean, in my pants without my consent. That doesn't sound right to me.
No. It's just like, why? I mean, she was just completely traumatized from that. And like, I the healthcare profession, I'm sorry, it's starting to disgust me now. Like, we're really getting to this point. I know, like we were talking about a while back, I think we were saying in Ohio, they were starting to do that now with trans youth. They were going to start inspecting to make sure that they were what they were.
Wait, what?
Oh, hi, Faith.
Apparently I don't exist. Oh, there we go.
You have anything to say, Faith, since you're on air? I know it's kind of hard because of the background. There you go. Jump in.
Kaiser is not a great place to go for trans youth. That's all I gotta say.
Yay. I love my child.
Yeah, they should listen to their patients.
I mean, that's another thing. Like, okay, so I know we need to come to a close, but honestly, these people that are parading around and saying that they give a fuck about the children, I think you really actually should listen to the children instead of trying to like impose your own values. Listen to them. If you care about women, listen to women.
Yeah.
The TERF movement, please do some self-reflection, please. Please do self-reflection because you are hurting actual women's rights movements right now with this. Oh, Faith, do you have anything to close on the episode before because I'm in the middle of mine. Think about that for a minute, Faith.
I wasn't really paying attention.
Okay, well, My kid always brings a smile to everybody's faces, so it's always good when she pops in. So, but this is the reason why I actually want to say this is part of the reason why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I want to fight for her and the many fucking trans youth that are out there. They don't have a voice, and I feel like it's our responsibility as adults that we give them that voice. Hi, Faith.
Hi.
Do you have anything to say?
No.
Okay, well then you can just sit here and I'm very proud of her on a lot of fronts, to be honest, because she used to have a lot of fear and using her voice, and she's not being afraid of it anymore.
That's great.
She calls it out. I mean, I think for me, bringing her to those events, like especially the one that I attended, the healthcare rally, like that gave her a lot of motivation.
That's great.
Like she's even at this point too. It's like we need to be in people's faces too. If you care about the youth, listen to the youth. They said, let's be in their faces. Let's go be in their faces. Let's give them an opportunity to speak.
Yep.
What I'm going to say is, yes, this overturn of Roe v. Wade is very, very depressing. However, let's not wallow in depression.
Right.
Let's use that as a motivator to go out in the streets and fight for this. We need to demand better from the people that we put in office.
Yep.
We have to do better. We need to have people in there that are demonstrating that they give a fuck about us. Yep. Not by just tweeting, because words are nothing unless you have actions to support it. Pay attention to anybody who is running for office, and let's demand better from them. Get in their face. Let them see your pain. Because when you're sitting there writing letters, they're not actually seeing what you're actually experiencing. They just see words. Let them see your tone. Let them see the emotions. Let them see the vulnerability. Let them see it. Because you know what? We live in a country where money is everything.
Yep.
It has corrupted a lot of people. People have forgotten their values, their morals, and now people are just seen as walking dollar signs. We are not walking dollar signs. We are human beings. We are breathing. Please, please acknowledge everyone as humans. We are entitled to basic fundamentals. We are entitled to have clean air. We are entitled to have housing. We are entitled to be able to have a nutritious diet. We are entitled to have those healthy, loving relationships. We are entitled to high quality of health care. We do not deserve bullshit health care. And I also want to make a PSA to this too. These insurance companies, honestly, y'all need to back off from mental health providers. Because of your tedious requirements. Hi, Faith. Because of your tedious requirements, you're putting more stress on these mental health workers and they're quitting. You're reinforcing most of these community mental health agencies, because that's where you mainly see it, by the way. You are reinforcing to these community mental health agencies to engage in performative politics, and you are actually essentially scaring people away from this. Enough with it. If human lives mean to you as a mental health professional, fight against this corruption. Fight against it. And may I remind you, as mental health providers, we are advocates. It is in our code of ethics. Be out there, because you know, essentially at the end of the day, why we're advocates, because we are trying to advocate a better society for the people that come into our office.
I can just fade in and out of existence. That's fine.
Well, Faith is providing a little humor in our closing, so.
I can provide humor no matter
Well, that's good, Faith. That is very good. I'm glad you're doing that. Yes, and now you're like not existing right now. Okay. So back on a serious note. You evangelical Christians, please go read the Bible. Stop twisting scripture to fit your narratives. It's not going to work. God will be pissed off with you and he will throw you out the door. That's all I'm going to say about that. Stop forcing religion onto people. Again, there is free will in the Bible. Look it up. It's been mentioned in many passages. Yes. Speaking of me and her being baptized, we're baptized as Christians. So,
All right.
yes, look it up. Look it up. To my trans, non-binary siblings, including with the other women, just everybody, put our petty bullshit to the side. Let's stand together and fight. We can have the petty discussions later, but right now, the shit that's going on with us right now is real. It's real. Next thing you know, actually, I kind of want to reference that video again. They're already talking about talks with like genocide with trans people. This is real.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going outside for a while.
Okay, but yes, this is real. Demand better from your politicians. Use your voice. Do not be afraid to use your voice. Do not be afraid, again, to engage in uncomfortable conversations. They must be had. This is why all this shit is going on in this world, is because nobody is talking about the uncomfortable conversations. We must have them. They are healthy, and I will continuously reinforce it. And I want to go ahead and shut up on that rant. So, Sukru, I wanted to know about your closing arguments here, and Faith here, who is providing a little bit of humor for us, because I know this has been kind of like a hard topic
Oh
to
yeah, it's been loaded. That's for sure. Okay, so yeah, there are a lot to talk about still, but okay. So last thought, what I really want to say, and I guess our audience, um, it's probably like mainly trans, non-binary people and allies. So maybe like I'm not really speaking to the right crowd. But let's just talk about this for a second. So right now, there are not so many people who are perfectly comfortable right now. Okay, a lot of you out there are uncomfortable, right? We are suffering, and I just want you guys to think. And I'm actually you, meaning that if you may be people who are not very open to LGBTQIA plus, or who are not open to foreigners, who are not open to immigrants. But let's just think about it for a second, like your experience of living your life. So you are probably suffering, you are uncomfortable, you can barely pay for gas for your car. When you go to grocery store, uh, your bill's so high that you have to like think twice about what you put in your basket, right? Well, think about what's causing that. I mean, let's just think about very calmly, like what's causing your discomfort. Okay, if you look at it, we are not causing that. Your LGBTQIA plus neighbors, we are not causing that. Immigrants, we are not causing that. We actually have a common enemy. It's just that you guys probably don't want to look at it, but we actually have a common enemy. Let's think about who is comfortable right now. These people are actually our common enemy, who are perfectly comfortable in the world that like money buys everything, healthcare, what have you, these people who are getting like getting paid millions of dollars, um, who are comfortable, who don't care that our country is spending billions of dollars on wars and weapons of mass destruction. Uh, you know,
Mhm.
that's our common enemy. So yeah, let's just not lose sight of like who is our enemy. We are not your enemy, so let's work together so that we can have um happy, healthy, prosperous lives for our families. Okay, so that's all I gotta say.
And I actually wanted to bring up one last question about, the discussion with codifying Roe v. Wade. I mean, honestly, I'm really disappointed that they chose to use this issue to scare people to go to the voting box. They do have the power to do this shit.
Mhm.
I mean, this is what is really depressing. Like, this is just a tactic to scare people, and they don't even realize. Like, I think they do actually realize on one hand though, but it is affecting human lives.
Yeah.
They need to stop playing games with us. I just want to thank everybody who has tuned in, commented, and please continue to support our content. We definitely want to make sure that our voices are heard. We definitely want to platform your voice. So if you're very interested of coming on, please send me a DM, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Please continue to like and subscribe and share the content that we provide. I just want to say much love to you all. And please, please, please take care of yourselves. Practice self-care. Self-care is essential.
Yep.
We need it to survive. We need it to function. When we don't take care of ourselves, our judgment gets clouded. And we cannot think clearly. I know we've been going through a trauma in itself with COVID in this pandemic. Take some time. Appreciate yourself. I know this world and country is depressing right now. But you are alive. You are breathing. We can accept the fate that's coming to us, but damn it, that shouldn't stop us from trying to make a change. Don't let this sadness and depression discourage you. For those who are that are on the edge, and I'm referring to people that kind of realize what's going on and what needs to happen, but in the same breath are kind of like, but I'm still going to go on the safe side. Know that your voice and your actions are important, and that's what scares people. Do not be afraid to use it. Again, I will always emphasize this message. Do not be afraid to use your voice. I don't want us to become more of a statistic anymore. I am tired of seeing our lives getting affected and these simple solutions that are out there. They know this will help us, but they will not do anything about it. Let's continue to raise hell. Let's kick ass. Get in the faces of people. But also, I want to highly emphasize too, we should be meeting people on their level. Their level. So whatever that may be, if people are not wanting to accept what you're teaching to them right now, that's okay. At least you planted a seed. Don't engage in performative conversations. Again, much love to you all. And we will definitely see you guys next week on the Trans Files.
Yep.